Would you recommend this movie for children?
Allez, liquidons-les.
This would have appeared on my childhood trauma list if I had seen it as a child.
Oh, yeah?
Probably.
I have read some reviews about kids who saw this when they were young, and they liked it.
Well, yeah, because it's like animated, and their parents would rent it for them at a fucking movie store, movie rental place.
They don't understand the implications of what they're watching.
Fantastic Planet, or La Planète Sauvage, and I guess the more accurate English translation would be The Wild Planet, because that's what they keep saying in the movie. But anyway, it's directed by René Laloux. The film takes place on a planet where human beings are not the dominant species, and they are essentially treated as pets by a much larger, much more powerful, and much more technologically advanced species. And
the drugs.
The drugs. And human beings are referred to as Oms. What did you guys think of this film?
Oh boy.
Oh boy!
I know, Ralph, you loved it. You absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. I've seen it 4 times since.
Really?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Since I first watched it,
you've broken the record.
I fucking loved it.
Wow.
I got it on Blu-ray.
Here's the thing, right? It's one of those things where I appreciate it more than I actually like it. I think for what it was going for, it was kind of bang on. But there's only so much I can kind of attach myself to these. What's the best way to describe them? It's almost like an Aesop's fable kind of thing, where it's like it's kind of a detached look at this fantastical story that at its very core, it's not so subtle core, has this kind of allegorical message about any number of things, be it slavery, animal abuse, racism, all that kind of stuff. But for me, my biggest problem is without the allegory, there isn't that much else for me to sort of delve into and get attached to. Like, it's not very purposefully, the film is not about characters at all. It even sets up major characters and just abandons them within minutes. And I guess it's just a matter of does this Aesop's fable speak to you or not? I mean, the art direction is pretty fantastic, and the style of animation, being that kind of stop motion as opposed to hand-drawn frame animation, is certainly unique.
It's like Terry Gilliam.
Yeah.
They did the animation like they had cutouts, right? And they just did stop motion with
kind of
the
like
cutouts.
like South Park.
Okay.
like originally
like South Park.
did.
Probably the best example I've
better
seen
than South Park,
of that kind of animation, though.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
It looks fucking fantastic, and everything actually felt alien. Everything felt so leagues and bounds beyond what you could find on Earth. It was so interesting. Even like the plants would do like these little fucking things, open and close and make these weird noises, and you're like, what the hell? That was one of my favorite elements of it, is that this world that you're in is just so odd.
Yeah.
And nothing, you can get the gist of what they're doing, but you'll never fully understand it.
It's kind of in the same vein as Under the Skin, in a sense, where in order to present human beings as this lesser species, it makes sense to present concepts that the viewer could never truly understand, because if you're trying to look at life through the perspective of a pet in our world, or like a gerbil or some shit, like they don't know how we turn the lights on, they don't know what cars are, they don't know how that shit works, there's so many things that we could just like do in front of them that they could never possibly understand technologically.
Yeah, you get that they're eating in one scene, but it's like this fucking cloud that they stand in front of, and like little like clouds come out of it and go into their mouth. And you're like, huh. There aren't a lot of characters to attach to, and
no, there are lots of characters. They just don't really have character.
Yeah, I guess. because it's such a grand story they're telling. It's just like, this character only serves this purpose in the story, and then that's about it.
Yeah.
Like, the little girl, what's her name? The alien girl.
I forget her name.
that adopts...
Zubilu.
Tiva?
Yeah, that's close to it.
Tiva, maybe.
Yeah.
It's Tiwa, isn't it?
Tiwa or Tiva, somewhere along those lines.
I can look it up.
Yeah. She is one of the more main characters in the film.
So
Who,
she was
Tiwa?
serving her purpose, and that was it. And then once our main character moves on from there, like, we don't really need to see her anymore. And the movie's so short, it wasn't like it relied on characters for me to stay invested, because everything went by so briskly.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't really like, oh, I need to see what this character's up to, because that's not the meat of the story for me, and what made it so interesting.
I almost feel as if animation weren't so expensive, perhaps we would have seen certain things more fleshed out, because this is a short movie.
Yeah.
It
is,
animation
which I love
is
about
super
it.
fucking expensive.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the runtime was reflective of its limitations. It probably was.
I found a quote, like, in direct response to what you just said there. I think it's actually like a cultural thing. Someone here, one of the animators, a Czech guy, said that in, like, Czech animation is that they treat characters as symbols rather than well-rounded characters. So
interesting.
the films, it's like purposefully somewhat simplistic, and like characters aren't developed on purpose.
It is a very different way of telling a story, but that's also what helps it become more unique overall.
Yeah.
I
It's
do
definitely
think that this
unconventional.
is, like the title suggests, it's about the world, not necessarily about an individual within the world.
It's not like a totally disconnected view with no heart at all. Because we do follow Tur, like, as he grows up, basically from when he's a baby to when he's fully grown, and we see humanity evolve with him. So there was that, giving the story some, like, structure and through line, and some heart, too. And there's also, like, the fact that Tiwa actually loved Tur was sweet. That was, like, a nice chapter of the movie.
Yeah.
She did genuinely treat him like a pet. Like, she thought she was treating him well.
Exactly.
Terre aime Tiva. Répète. Terre aime Tiva. Répète.
The way that she treated her is very similar to how children, human beings, treat their pets. You know, like, you see a kid with a gerbil, you know that gerbil's basically being abused. If there's like a 10-year-old girl with a gerbil, you know she's probably not taking care of it very well and doesn't know it. You know.
Yeah.
But we don't really give a shit, because it's like, oh, whatever, they're just gerbils. But
yeah,
this
they're
is
dumb, and they have no self-awareness.
exactly. And so to these larger beings, human beings are dumb. It's like, oh, what? They can't blah 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 blah. Like, they don't even understand shit, right? And I guess just in this story, it's like, oh, human beings are perfectly capable of some sort of higher understanding with the help of their like brain learning technology that implements history directly into your brain. I think that it is a very unique and important perspective to place people into, to try and, I guess, give people a sense of empathy that they might not have, or at least try to make them think about our relationship with lesser species, or, you know, what we consider to be lesser species and how we treat them.
Or just how we've treated people throughout history. We have fucking treated people like this.
Yeah.
Where, like, the adults in this movie treat the very differently than the kids do. They treat them like they treated slaves. They're property. They're just fucking toys, right? And as long as they're not serving their purpose, you could just fucking get rid of them.
Yeah, it's a very very colorful, very creative.
Yeah.
Very
creative.
Yeah, incredibly
Trippy.
creative. Trippy. I love the
Super
70s
trippy.
soundtrack. You know,
Oh,
I
the
think it
soundtrack is
fits so
fucking excellent.
perfectly.
I can imagine, like, in some alternate universe, that this is like the basis of someone's religion or beliefs or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like one
It
of
felt
those,
so real.
yeah, those classic
And
kind of
developed.
stories that people, I don't know, dig up from the past or study, that kind of thing.
Yeah, part of the reason why they were able to have so much about the world itself condensed into this super short film is because they didn't spend so long developing individual characters. It's kind of a trade-off in a sense.
Even the Drogs have some design elements that make you sympathize with them somewhat. They have human features, right?
They're the human inserts, aren't they? So
of course they are. And you're supposed to think, oh, it's fucked up what they're doing. But at the same time, we do the same shit.
Yeah.
Just weird little details, like there's that really weird scene where that guy's just smacking on a box, some crazy technology, and then he's just sucked into the box. It's like, okay, I guess that happened. That's something that they can do in this world.
Yeah.
You know, like those drones that they'd fly around that were like casting these beams of light, or what you thought were like beams of light, but then they'd leave the...
That shit was scary.
Yeah.
The scene when they unleash those like smoke pellets in the cave.
They're de-umming.
That was a scary... Yeah, they're de-umming. That was a scary ass scene.
Lots of like oppressive imagery, like totalitarian, controlling imagery. Reminds me of the Wall movie a bit as well. Had a bunch of similarities.
I haven't seen that yet. I would really like to.
Well, haven't you? It's got like really impressive animation, and there's a bunch of like similar themes about that movie. I would recommend that one too, if you like this kind of thing.
I love how very unapologetically brutal it is, and it's not particularly gory in any sense. A lot of the violence and
gore.
A lot of the death that you see is still very detached in a sense, where you see dozens of silhouette figures basically just running away and then being like trampled by this gigantic ball that's collecting them up, you know, or as they're being killed by those beams of light, or anything that's mass killing all of the people in this film. It's shown in such a strangely detached way, and yet it's still so effective, and it's so like
cruel.
Horrific in a sense and terrifying.
Well, it makes them look like ants, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's just very cruel. And even just the idea of the kid having to grow up, and he's basically just a toy for the first 15 years of his life, and he has no parents or no life or anything. He's just this fucking alien's toy. That's really disturbing and cruel as well. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on in this movie like that.
That opening scene is just disturbing. That's all you see
cruel.
of the drags at first, is literally just this god hand coming down from the sky, being like, nope, sorry, flick.
Like, they're not even being attacked by anything that threatening. They're being attacked by children just fucking around in the dirt. Like, just that sets the stage so well.
When one of them dies and they're like, she's not moving, now we can't play with her anymore. There's so much of indifference there from these things that don't even really fully understand that they're abusing this other species. I really hope we get past that point of the implication that animated films are just for kids. I hope that there's more adult-oriented animated films that get released in the future, and I hope it becomes more commonplace. Because there's so much you can do with animation.
Yeah, it's such a waste to just make kids movies with it.
That's a limitation that you place upon it. But animation is a medium where you can literally do whatever you want. There's limitations in the budget for sure, in runtime, like any movie, but there's no limitation to what you can show creatively.
That's the way the animators designed the animation in this movie too, because they said they wanted to contrast the smooth style of like Disney or Miyazaki movies, and they just wanted to make a very formal and kind of stiff, rigid looking animation. Not that that's an insult. I mean, the movie looks great. It's just, it's clearly not as free flowing as like Aladdin or something like that, like a Disney movie.
Presentation in that sense does bring an element of just kind of like a disturbing way of showing it just through the stop motion cutout style alone.
Yeah, if like a Disney movie was propaganda, this would be the documentary footage of like what was actually going on. That's the kind of contrast it has with how like violent it is. Like even that scene where they have the combat animals, and like, fighting with these weird animals, and it just bites onto them and kills someone with it.
Just tied to their chests.
Yeah.
I'm quite traditional in terms of the things I get attached to. Like I can appreciate it as a work of art on its own. But when I don't have that emotional connection, I just don't have that same enthusiasm, if that makes sense. It's not even really criticism. If I really wanted to say criticism, I guess there's some repetitive animation here and there that I noticed where they were reusing stuff. It could just be budgetary though. A couple of the backgrounds were a bit empty for me. Might be the point of the scenes if I rewatched it again. That's just about it, 'cause I mean, what it's going for, it does totally nail.
It ends kind of abruptly. I don't feel like it had as much of a like calm down kind of conclusive ending as I would have liked. I would have preferred, I guess, maybe just like a couple more minutes just to kind of like ease us into the fact that the movie's over. But to me, it felt like it was just kind of like, oh, it's over now.
It was like wrapped up in 2 minutes. Yeah.
It is
and it was cool. It was still really good. I still
Yeah.
loved it. But yeah, they could have made that a few minutes longer, and it probably would have been better.
Yeah. Otherwise, I think the movie's great. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Can't get that experience anywhere else. Very unique, very smart, creative, impactful. I give it an 8 out of 10.
I think I'd give it an 8.
Like a 5 out of 10.